Display company Doe sent me over their new Spectrum One 4K with an updated Gorilla Glass display with DXC, and I've been using it for the last couple of weeks with my MacBook Pro. This display has lots of ports and variable refresh rate and is very similar to previous versions of the Spectrum display, with one very important difference in how you can get it. So I'm going to give you an overview of the features and what's new with the Spectrum One, which will revolve around my usage with a Mac, and tell you how you can actually get one of these new displays. Now, if you've ever seen or heard of the Spectrum displays, this update is going to be very familiar to you. This is a 27-inch 4K display that is bright and beautiful in an attractive package. The newest feature of the Spectrum One is the optional Gorilla Glass with DXC. This gives you all the benefits of a glossy screen, like increased contrast and sharpness, while cutting way back on the glare you normally get from a glossy display. Are there still reflections when you or something behind you is lit up? Yeah, but when the display is on and you're actually using it, you really don't see it much. Though the body itself is made entirely of plastic like its predecessors, this is one of the best looking displays out there. The design is sleek and modern with slim bezels all around. There are a slew of ports on the back, along with a power button and on-screen display joystick. The stand, which is sold separately, is made of 2 pieces of metal and is pretty solid. It allows the display to move up and down or even rotate 90 degrees if you need a vertical display. I actually like the design of this display a lot because it's a very minimal design. There's no crazy logos or crazy lights that distract you from whatever I'm going to do with the display. In my usage, the display and stand have been very stable with basically no display wobble. 4K displays are pretty great. At 27-inch, a 4K display is 163 pixels per inch, which when native 4K or scaled to 1080p, the image is sharp. Because I use a Mac, I do prefer a scaled resolution different from 4K, but I'll talk about that more in just a moment. The display is also bright. It gets up to 450 nits of peak brightness with SDR content, making it plenty bright for everywhere I would actually use a desktop display. But it also has HDR 600 compatibility, which means it can get up to 750 nits of peak brightness with HDR content. This made HDR videos look really good on this display. When using HDR, there are 16 individual dimming zones, which do turn on and off depending on what is on the display, to try and give you that greater contrast. I found it enjoyable to watch HDR content, but as you can see, the 16 dimming zones don't really offer a whole lot of benefit because there's always going to be something basically laterally or horizontally on pretty much all of the display. The colors on this Spectrum One are great because it also supports 98% of the P3 color and looks very close to Apple's own displays right out of the box, which is good for me, and it looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to tell you more about the features like the 100-watt power delivery and the ProMotion-like variable refresh rate, but I do want to thank today's sponsor. This is the Nexode Pro 100-watt GaN charger from channel partner Ugreen. This is a 3-port GaN charger, and it's Ugreen's newest, most advanced 100-watt charger yet. With a single USB-C connection, you can charge at up to 100 watts, which is enough power to charge my 14-inch MacBook Pro from 0 to 86% in just 60 minutes. Need to charge multiple devices at the same time? That's not a problem for this charger. The Nexode Pro 100 is compatible with just about every fast charger protocol, like Quick Charge or even 45-watt Samsung Superfast 2. Using AirPyrotech with GaN Infinity Tech, Ugreen was able to create a super efficient, powerful, and compact charger. I mean, just look at how much smaller this Nexode Pro 100-watt with 3 charging ports is compared to the single port 67-watt Apple charger. And lucky you, you can add this versatile charger to your desk or laptop bag today and save using the links and codes in the description below. And my thanks to Ugreen for sponsoring this video. The Spectrum One has a variable refresh rate that's similar to ProMotion that you're going to find on Apple's Pro laptops and iPads. You can configure the variable refresh rate inside System Preferences or System Settings on your Mac. Then you can see the refresh rate in action by enabling the on-screen display of the frames per second. You can actually see the rate fluctuating along with the actual gameplay. There's also other features for real gamers like 1 millisecond response time, G-Sync and FreeSync compatibility support, and backlight strobing. And beyond games, the high refresh rate is just great for everyday computing, from scrolling up and down on a web page to even just the animations inside the operating system. Everything just looks more fluid and smoother with motion. If you're someone who needs to connect multiple devices to a display, you'll probably be happy with all the ports on this thing. There are 4 display inputs. You can pick between 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, a DisplayPort connection, and DisplayPort over USB-C. For my MacBook, I use a single USB-C cable to connect, and with that, I get data, DisplayPort, and up to 100 watts of power delivery for fast charging my MacBook. There's also additional USB 3.1 ports for connecting accessories like mice and keyboards or an external SSD. If you connect one device with USB-C, you can connect another device with HDMI or DisplayPort along with the USB-B connection, and now you have a full KVM. That means that the accessories you have connected to the display can switch between devices as you change the display to whatever device you want to see. And that's pretty much all the features of the new Spectrum One 4K, which is a lot of features, and it has all been working really well with a Mac. For me, the biggest issue when using this display with a Mac is the display scaling. And this isn't really a DOE-specific issue, it's all 4K displays with macOS. Apple likes to have elements on the display be a certain size that stays the same no matter what size display you're using. So if you have a 15-inch MacBook Air and a 5K Studio display, an icon or the same piece of text is going to be the same size when you drag it from one display to another. With a 4K display at 27 inches, the native resolution makes everything too small at full 4K. Using pixel doubling to make it similar to a Retina display makes everything a little too big, and what I want is something that matches what macOS prefers at 27 inches. Inside System Preferences, you can select this option, and at first glance it looks good. But soon you may notice that text isn't quite as crisp as it was before, or text is a little bit fuzzy. And that's because you have to scale from one resolution to another that isn't one-to-one. If we zoom in on the 4K display, with the pixel doubling for Retina, you can see that the text is nice and sharp. If I change the scaling to the size I prefer, the text is fuzzier. I know not everybody cares about this, and if you're happy with the size of things on the display with macOS and a 4K display, then great. This is just my own weird personal preference, but I figured I'd mention it here. Other than that, and one small issue, this display has performed really well in my testing over the last couple weeks, and I like it. Now, the other big change this year is how you can actually buy one of the Spectrum ones. You should be able to actually order this display now from a reputable store, B&H Photo, which you can find in the description below. This is a massive and much needed change because DOE, or formerly Eve, has a not so great reputation. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because there's plenty of information out there if you're looking for it, but DOE has had issues actually shipping orders for years. But the fact that you can now go to B&H Photo to place an order and use them for returns or canceling an order if it's backordered or whatever is huge for us consumers. Support-wise, I'm still on the fence maybe because a couple of years ago I bought an Eve Spectrum off eBay because they kept delaying my order directly through them. The joystick thing on the back just kind of fell apart and I was unable to get anyone from Eve, now DOE, to help me. I reached out to them via email and via Twitter and never got a response. While doing my testing on this display, I did notice that when using HDR, there was a slight issue with the zone dimming, causing a horizontal dark area. I reached out to my contact at DOE and they are promising a replacement. I think that the company is working hard to ship and support better, so I'll let you know how this all works out for me. So there's not a lot different from this display technically from the previous Spectrum monitors, but if you like a glossy display and you want reduced glare, then this will probably help. And if you're wondering how the Spectrum displays compare against the Apple Studio display, you should definitely check out this video right over here. Hit the thumbs up button if you liked it, hit subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.